जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna and welcome back. Thank you for joining. Today we are discussing verse number 41 of chapter number 2 from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And in the previous verse, verse number 40, Krishna started discussing about Buddhi Yoga. So he begins the Buddhi Yoga, explaining about Buddhi Yoga by glorifying this process. So Krishna says, in this endeavor, or somebody who is performing Buddhi Yoga, there is no loss or diminution. And also Krishna says that a little advancement on this path of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So what is the most dangerous type of fear? So the most dangerous type of fear is not getting a human form of life. Or you get another form of life, which is animal form or bird or insect. So this is the most dangerous type of fear. And if we get any other life other than life form other than the human life, then what happens is, then we lose the chance of inquiry. We cannot inquire in those form of life about our purpose of the life. So that is the reason Krishna is glorifying that somebody who is engaged in Buddhi Yoga, then whatever they have done while they are engaging in Buddhi Yoga, that is permanent. The result is permanent. And also you get another opportunity. You get opportunity in the next life to continue from where you left in the previous life. And now in this verse, Krishna is going to say what is the qualification one needs to have to practice the Buddhi Yoga process. So let's read the verse, chapter number 2, verse number 41. Vyavasayitmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So Krishna the translation goes as, those who are on this path, means on the path of Buddhi Yoga, are resolute in purpose. And their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So Krishna is calling Arjuna by the name Kurunandana. So the first two lines is talking about those who are on the path of on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. So the intelligence has to be fixed, or one-pointed intelligence. Mind has to be focused or fixed in one place. And on the other hand, those people whose intelligence is not fixed, then what happens? Their intelligence is bahusakha. So when their intelligence is not fixed, then their intelligence is bahusakha, means multi-branched. And how many sakha? Krishna says anantascha, means unlimited shakhas or unlimited branch. And the last line is buddhayo vyavasayinam. So that is about their irresolute determination. So we see that people whose buddhi is not fixed in one place is actually having their buddhi is in many places. So indirectly Krishna is telling Arjuna that he should become one-pointed. There are people whose intelligence is fixed, and there are other people and their intelligence is actually dissipated or multi-branched. So whenever we want to achieve something, we have to have a focus. We must, when we hear all these self-help sessions, in the contemporary world, there are so many self-help sessions. So they talk about this, that the key to the success is focus. The more our intelligence is distributed or dissipated, our consciousness is pulling us into various directions. And when we are trying to do too many things, then actually nothing is getting done. When desires crowd our mind, means there are too many desires in our mind, then what happens? The dilemma that clouds our intelligence. Therefore, one has to be focused. See, for example, when somebody wants to travel, they want to actually pack their entire house in one suitcase. But this kind of thing is not possible, because you cannot pack the entire home into the suitcase, because you are traveling to one place, so you need only few things. So similarly, when there are too many desires and we can't fit everything in our 24 hours day. So whenever we are overwhelmed with such kind of things, then what we should do is we should identify or put the first things first, and we should be very clear about our priorities, and then when we are clear about the priorities, then we can streamline things. A streamlining thing is very, very important in order to focus. So similarly, if you want to practice Krishna consciousness, then Krishna is saying Ekeha Kuru Nandana. We have to become one-pointed towards our practices in Krishna consciousness. And if we are not one-pointed, then we find that it is very difficult to persevere. Persevere means steady persistence in course of action. So in Krishna consciousness, one has to be, first of all, to be resolute in purpose. And when we are resolute in purpose, then our aim becomes one. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada actually focuses on how to get this one-pointedness. So different people will have different one-pointedness. For example, for a sportsman, he wants to become champion in certain kind of sports. Similarly, for a student who wants to study, then they will have different kind of one-pointedness. So someone may want to climb Mount Everest. So for achieving anything we want to do, we need to be one-pointed. So if you want to do something big in life, we don't have to be fanatical. So fanatical, but we have fanatical means what? Fanatical means obsessions about one's own viewpoint, and everyone else is wrong or illusion. So if you want to get success, then you don't have to be fanatical, but we have to be fanatically focused. What that means is, fanatically focused means we have to be focused on one thing. And when people want to go to the top, they always keep practicing hours after hours and what they want to be expert in. And when we want to study, for example, we want to study. We cannot say that I will become a doctor, or I will also become an engineer, I will also become a lawyer, or I will also become a chartered accountant, etc., etc., etc. You will have to pick one branch and specialize in that one area of study. So same thing applies to spiritual life. That if I want to, or if I am going to do something, in one branch or one area, I have to leave the other side. I don't have to do so many things. So similarly, if we want to advance in Krishna consciousness, we have to become focused. A serious devotee is defined by the sense of purpose and a sense of urgency. That is, something has to be done, that is the purpose, and something has to be done soon, or something has to be done now, so that is urgency. And how do we get this? So Krishna explains that we get this through a spiritual master. So we saw that, Srila Prabhupada, when he got instruction from his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to preach to the Western world. And he took that message very seriously. After reading the purport of this verse, which was written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he got extraordinary success by taking the message of this particular purport, which was written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Prabhupada, once he told his disciple that in 1950, before he came to the Western world to spread Krishna consciousness, so in 1950 he read this commentary on the verse of this particular verse given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he said that he was struck by the commentary, which further fixed him in his resolve to follow Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order to preach Krishna consciousness in English. That is why, this particular verse is very dear to the devotees of ISKCON, because this particular purport, which is written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur for this particular verse, was actually, very helpful in starting ISKCON, because Prabhupada got his determination to preach the message of Krishna in English by reading the purport of this particular verse. So, what do we do at our level? So, at our level, we can seek guidance from either our spiritual master if we are initiated or we have taken shelter of a spiritual master, or some senior devotees, and engage in doing our service with full attention and focus. And then, whatever talents and abilities which we have, that Krishna has given us, then we can use those talents and abilities which is given to us to serve and glorify the Supreme Lord for our purification and for the benefit of others. So this is how we can apply in our life Ekeha Kuru Nandana. Now this term Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is very important. So Vyavasaya means business. So here Krishna is saying that business like intelligence, Vyavasaya Atmika. So anyone who is into business always evaluates everything in terms of money. So somebody gives some gift, so then that person will say, okay, this much amount of the gift, whatever amount it comes to his, according to his calculation. So basically, a businessman evaluates everything in terms of money. So this indicates that one's priority shapes one's perspective. So everything that businessman sees is in terms of money. So similarly, just like this businessman, one has to see everything in terms of the potential to spirituality or spiritual potential of everything. Like the businessman sees in terms of financial potential, so similarly the spiritualist should see everything in terms of its spiritual potential. So Krishna is discussing about all this, about the Buddhi Yoga, and he's giving all this in the 40th verse and the 41st verse. He's explaining about the advantages and the qualifications or the benefits of engaging in Buddhi Yoga. And he's explaining this just to contrast between what he has explained in the previous section, which is the Karma Kanda section. So Karma Kanda is definitely, compared to the Karma Yoga, it is lower. So Krishna in this particular verse is saying that if we want to be successful in Buddhi Yoga, then our mind has to be focused and one has to be resolute in purpose, and your aim should be one. Otherwise, what will happen? Our aim will be multi-branched, and when we are multi-branched, we cannot attain or get what is to be done in the process of Buddhi Yoga. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to explain in the purport. So first he defines faith, definition of faith. A strong faith that Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called as Vyavasatmika intelligence. So one has to have that faith, a very strong faith, that by performing activities, we will be basically when we are performing activities, will be elevated to the highest stage of perfection, and that is Vyavasatmika intelligence. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalika states that Shabda Shabde Vishwas Kahe Shrudida Nischay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritaha. So this is a definition of Shraddha or faith given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says the faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relation to the material world with obligation to family, tradition, humanity or nationality. So, Krishna Karma Krita, when you do Krishna Bhakti Kaile, when you do a Bhakti, then everything else is taken care. So, when somebody has that kind of unflinching trust in the activities of Krishna consciousness, that is called as faith. That when I perform my duty in Krishna consciousness, I don't need to act or I don't need to perform any other kind of duties. Everything is taken care by this. Now that next thing is Prabhupada explaining what are fruitive activities. Fruitive activities are the engagement of one's reaction from past good or bad deeds. So, as our life is eternal, or as a soul we are eternal, so whatever desires we have, or whatever actions we have done in the past, that will produce good reactions or bad reactions. So, that will force us to engage in some kind of activities, and that is fruitive activities. Actions in Krishna consciousness. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities, because when we are awake in Krishna consciousness means we are fully in knowledge of what we are doing, whatever activities we are doing. So when we are full in knowledge and then we are only trying to serve the Lord, then we do not endeavor for good results or bad results. This is explained by Krishna in the later verses in chapter 2. Where one needs to just focus on his actions. Karmaneva adhikaraste. Because these results are not only dependent on our endeavors. There are many factors for the result. So the person in Krishna consciousness, he just focuses on the endeavor. He doesn't focus on the results. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on absolute plane. Right? Because Krishna is absolute, so the activities related to Krishna is also absolute. For they are no longer subject to dualities like good or bad. Right? So Krishna is absolute. So actions in Krishna consciousness is also absolute in nature. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. So this is the highest perfection, where when reaches to the highest stage, then that person is actually completely renounced from the material conception of life. So then what he has accepted? He has accepted the spiritual conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. So when we begin serving Krishna with love and only for pleasure of Krishna, when we act like that, then gradually we reach to this situation or to this position where this renunciation of material conception of life automatically happens. Foundation of resolute determination. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. So what is the foundation? Somebody who is in knowledge can easily do this. That's why we are studying all these scriptures and we are trying to understand Krishna's position and our position. So when we understand that, then automatically what happens is this resolute determination will come. When we have knowledge, then we will act on knowledge sometime or others. So it's the beginning, it is theory, but gradually when the theory sinks into our mind, then we start acting on that basis. So our determination will become resolute by the knowledge. So the resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva sarvamiti samaatma sudurlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. By watering the root of the tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves, branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely the self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's action, then everyone will be satisfied. So this is the whole thing. The knowledge that Vasudeva or Krishna is the Supreme Lord and he is Sarvamiti. There is no more truth superior to Krishna. Once he knows that and he is root of everything, then we are watering, by serving Krishna actually we are watering the root of the tree. And when we are serving Krishna, when Krishna is satisfied, everyone will be satisfied. And there are many examples in like one in Mahabharata. When Krishna just ate one grain, then Durvasa Muni and all his 10,000 disciples, their stomach was filled. In fact, everybody's stomach was full by just Krishna eating. So these are the incidences, the pastimes that happened in Mahabharata, and shows us that how when Krishna is satisfied, then everyone will be satisfied. How to practice service? Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of spiritual master. So without spiritual master, we cannot do anything actually. So when we take shelter of spiritual master or a spiritual master who is coming in parampara, that kind of spiritual master is known as bona fide representative of Krishna. Right? So that can be practiced under the guidance of a spiritual master who is bona fide and who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. Right? So spiritual master can understand our nature, and then he's like a teacher. He knows us very well inside out, and then he can guide us according to our nature and engage us according to our nature and propensity, also our ability. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna. So once we accept a spiritual master, then we need to follow his instructions. And one should accept the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master as one's mission of life. As we discussed earlier, Srila Prabhupada, when he read the purport given to this verse by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he read it, he became more resolute. He became more determined after reading that purport. We are also going to read that purport quickly at the end of this session. And it's a very, very nicely and very important purport which is written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Prabhupada read that and he became determined. So similarly, when one acts firmly and obeys the representative of Krishna, which is the spiritual master, then he becomes successful. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructs us in this famous prayer for his spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya prasadat nagatu kuopi dhyayan suivam tasya Shastri sandhyam vandish guru Sri Charanara vrindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. Very important. If the spiritual master is happy, then you are blessed. But if he is not happy, then you are cursed actually. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. Then finally Prabhupada says importance of Gyana. The whole process, however, depends on the perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of body, not theoretically but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive action. So when we have Gyana, then we don't want to rot in this material world. That is the main thing. Then we understand by the Gyana that I am the soul and I am stuck in this material world and I want to get out. So if I have to get out, then I have to stop my engagements of fruitive actions. I don't have to stop actions, but I have to stop the mentality of enjoyment in this world. So till the time I have the mentality of enjoying in this world, then I cannot get out of this world. I want to stay here, right? If I am enjoying here. So one has to understand through Gyana, through the knowledge that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, and I am part and parcel of Krishna, and I am actually stuck in this material world, and I am suffering in this material world. So then the soul prepares to get out of the cycle of birth and death. So when the soul decides to get out of the cycle of birth and death, then this resolute determination is possible. So one who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various type of fruit reactions. So then the mind will present us many options to enjoy in this world, and then the mind will be bahusakha hi anantascha, and then we will not be able to focus our intelligence one pointedly. So this is what is discussed in this purport, and whatever is discussed in the purport has been put in this presentation format for you to read later. And this is a purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which Srila Prabhupada read, and then after reading this purport, his determination to follow the instruction of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur became more strong, and then he became more serious, and then it was possible for him to be one-pointed, and then by becoming focused one-pointedly, then what he could achieve, we saw the result, right? He has opened temples all over the world, and he has written so many books and translated so many books of the acharyas, and then this is benefiting the entire world. So one person's determination benefited so many souls, and it is going to benefit so many other souls in the future. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport is this: the best kind of intelligence I can have is intelligence used in service of Krishna. That intelligence is defined as fixed when it is intent upon my spiritual master's instructions, such as chanting the names of Krishna, remembering his activities, and performing service to his lotus feet. His instructions are my sadhana and my life, both in the beginning stage of bhakti as well as in the bhakti's perfectional stage. I desire only to follow his instruction. I accept nothing else as my life's work, even in dreams. Whether I am happy or I am distressed, whether the material world remains or is destroyed, I do not care. There is no loss for me. I simply must carry out the orders of my spiritual master. Fixedness upon his order is determined intelligence in devotional service. And only by being fixed in his orders, such determined intelligence is possible. Purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is so profound. One has to read every line again and again to really understand the meaning of this, and then applying gradually in our day-to-day activities. So only by the blessings of spiritual master, this determined instruction is determined focus is possible. So we'll stop here, and then we'll continue further discussion of the further verses where Krishna is going to in the next verse Krishna is going to talk how people in general are attached to karma kanda and how to get out of that. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.